Hi everyone, welcome to the Naarishakti show. I'm your host Aparna. Every week at this show, we bring to you raw stories of real women. Naarishakti is women in power. And today's topic and today's Nari is all about that. To me, she stands for all things power. I am super delighted to have with us here today Anita Sakuru. Hi Anita.
Nice to meet you, Aparna, on the show.
Likewise, pleasure to have you here. Anita Sakuru's journey into entrepreneurship began long before boardrooms and billion-dollar acquisitions. It actually began when she was in grade 6, when she was renting out comic books from her personal collection. What started as childhood curiosity evolved into building global technology businesses, scaling companies across continents, and being part of a landmark acquisition by IBM. After nearly 2 decades of shaping growth, strategy, and expansion, Anita chose a new path, becoming an early stage investor committed to backing ideas that create real social transformation. Today, her work sits at the intersection of technology, inclusion, and purpose as she supports ventures in education, fintech, and access for underserved communities. Her story is not just about success, but about resilience, reinvention, and using entrepreneurship as a force for change. Welcome to the Nari Shakti Show again.
Thank you, Aparna.
So, you started your first business when you were in grade 6. So, it was really in your blood. So, can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's really not in my blood. None of my family members are entrepreneurs. They're all either social workers or politicians.
Okay.
But the entrepreneurship at sixth grade was all about making whatever resources I have useful to others. That is still my what do you call tagline or whatever. You have certain resources, you want to share the resources with others, and others benefit from it and pay a price for it for you to expand those services. That's all entrepreneurship is about for me. So I was a voracious reader when I was in school. I had lots of books, and every time friends would borrow from me, a book or two, and then they would return it back to me. So sixth grade holidays, I was like, really jobless, not knowing what to do. Then I thought, why don't I put together a library and rent these books, collect some money, and buy more books for my library. So my whole point was that more people in my neighborhood read those books, and I also expand the collection that I have. That's what entrepreneurship is about for me.
Wow, that's very, very, very inspiring. Having what you have, making it more useful for others.
Yeah.
So you benefit, they benefit, and then everybody benefits.
The community benefits. So I remember what my father said. It kind of resonates. When I started off my first company after I graduated, he said, employ yourself and give employment to 100 people. He said that's all he said. He never said make money, buy these things, buy those things. What is your valuation? Nothing. So for my father also, they come from social service, or they come from this political, very agro-based families, right? So for them also, entrepreneurship means you employ some more people, you benefit some more people, along with making a living for yourself. That's all entrepreneurship is for me.
So you come from a background, where your family had politicians, and entrepreneurship is a field that is often seen as a risky field, right? They're not stable 9 to 5 jobs. So, what would you actually tell women who have ideas, who want to be entrepreneurs, but are not sure about the risk taking part?
Yeah. So I think after interacting with so many women that have become entrepreneurs or that want to become entrepreneurs, I think what it is they overestimate the risk. A lot of people, like when I became an entrepreneur, let's say in grade 6, right? What is the risk? The risk came true, which is I lost all my books. Nobody returned my books back, right?
Okay.
But that is okay. I learned something from it. Unless you set a process for, collecting the money or collecting your stuff back, you're not going to grow your business, and you're not going to survive. So every time in life when you take a risk, right, there is something. There is either you become successful or you learn something that is useful for the next phase of your life. So I feel women overestimate the risk, and that is the difference between men and women. Men jump into it knowing that there is risk. women, we always hesitate. That is the thing. That is the difference between.
Very well
Yeah,
said. I also think it's because women tend to be a little bit more cautious when it comes to the finances part. There's money involved in the
yeah,
business. So, what is it that you want to say? Because they feel that, once money goes away, it's not going to come back. And there's a lot of guilt that we are left with.
yeah. I think fundamentally and foundationally, what happens in every family, your family, my family, every family, is we safeguard, women safeguard the family.
Mm,
We kind of, the men, traditionally, the way it has been, men earn the money and give it to the family, and the women balances it out
mm,
and saves it for the children or for any emergencies and all that. So,
mm,
so when she has to risk that money and see that go away, so she has two double whammy basically.
mm,
One is that as an entrepreneur, she lost it. Two, as a safeguarder of the family,
mm,
she is risking the entire family. That is
mm,
where the double risk and the double stress comes.
mm,
That is what it is. So, and then one more thing is, you rarely, like for example, in my friends circle, right, males, they, if they want to invest in any company, they immediately write a check. They say, hey Anita, we are in, this is what it is, and they come in, they come on board. Women, they always come back, no matter how good she is, exceptions you and me, but always they say, okay, let me discuss with my family and come
mm,
back.
mm.
Women don't spend, women don't invest, women don't network enough. That is a reason. They are more intelligent, they have better planning, they can do things much better. It's that risk taking ability and that investing freedom that they choose not to give themselves is what makes it bad for women.
Very true.
Yeah,
Very true. You mentioned networking, and I know you're heavily into
yeah.
networking. So, what do you have to say about networking? How has it helped you? And any advice that you want to give the young women out there?
So, but it's very natural for me, Aparna. So it's very difficult to give a very practical advice about networking.
Mm,
I thrive on meeting people. I thrive on enabling. Like you
mm,
want something from me, if I know that I can introduce you to someone, I'll do that.
mm,
I feel we all grow by enabling and by helping out each other, by
mm,
seeking out to each other.
mm.
Very young, when people are very young, they're very competitive, and they want to stop others from being successful.
True.
But as we age, right, and as spirituality comes in and everything, we know that we cannot stop anyone's success. We cannot. If so, my story is, I feel that if I can contribute even a minute to your success, I'll feel very happy to see you very successful. So if everyone starts thinking like that, and especially women, you network with other powerful women, you network with other enablers, you network with other successful women,
Mm,
what happens is that positivity and those lessons rub off on you, and you start taking the risks yourself. Let's say I have never been an entrepreneur. I want to be an entrepreneur, and I'm friends with you, right? So I exchange you teach me, or you tell me your stories, and then I realize that it is not as risky as I thought it was, and then I'll get the strength to jump in. And
and
then you also have a lot of people, when you network, you also have a lot of people to guard you and to handhold you and to give you a perspective even if you fail. That is the whole thing. So without networking, you cannot be an entrepreneur. Without money, you can be an entrepreneur. Without an idea, you can be an entrepreneur by investing into somebody. But without networking, you cannot be an entrepreneur.
very, very well said.
Yeah,
And you can resonate with it. So, Anita, I see you as a people person. You
yeah,
instantly connect with people, but not everybody out there is an extrovert.
yeah.
So, what are some easy ways by which you can go out, lose that fear of, connecting with
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
networking? Do you have any ideas on that?
Yes, yes. So this is my formula, right? We overestimate risk, we overestimate judgment,
Mm,
we overestimate judgment. That is the barrier for people to network with others, right? So I believe in selfless love, I believe in selfless relationships, and it really works very well. It gives you so much of courage and satisfaction and gratification that nothing else can give. So if you selflessly do something for others, don't expect anything out of a relationship, right? That relationship moves very, very strongly. So somebody who
because there
wants
are
to,
no expectations to
no,
begin with.
absolutely.
Mm,
Even advice, right?
mm,
Somebody asks me for advice, and I give, and I don't expect them to follow. It's okay. That's my
okay.
experience.
Mm,
They have their own reasons why they don't follow.
mm,
Whereas I've seen my counterparts, they get really angry when somebody comes for an advice, waste their time, and then not follow it. My theory is, like, you have to, if you have time, you give advice. Don't expect them to follow, because you're not in their shoes. So like that, for youngsters who are just starting out, right, where you are seeking advice or you are networking, you feel that others are judging you always. You always overestimate judgment. Actually, nobody has time to judge you. Everybody is busy in their own life, self-reflecting.
Worst case, they're going to forget about the whole thing in a few months.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
you who's actually lost out thinking that somebody else is judging you.
Yes, you're thinking for yourself, you're thinking for another person. So my advice to youngsters is don't overestimate the judgment. Don't overestimate, people putting you down. It's you who will put you down. So just go out there, meet people. But there is something called instant connections, Aparna. So you vibe well with somebody and you don't vibe well with somebody. So don't forget the people that you don't vibe well for now when you're young, and then you start building relationships with people that you like and that you vibe well. But as you age, because of the way you have invested in relationships, that the way you look at relationships long term, right, you will come to a matured point where you stop disliking people that much. That maturity grows with age.
True.
You are less judgmental. You don't.
You're more accepting.
Yeah, more accepting, and
it doesn't bother us. Yes.
It naturally happens. You don't have to put effort. So when you're young, you put effort to network with people that you like and that you trust, and then as you keep aging, it automatically happens.
That's power. And today's show is all about power.
Yeah.
So Anita, looking back at your own journey, from major failures to big exits, what is one advice that you would give your own younger self?
That I should have networked more.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
As much as a powerful network person I am, right? When I was younger, I was not smart enough in my networking. I'll give you an example because I want others to learn. Right? I had like for example, when we moved out when we were in California and Boston also, we were not part of I particularly was not part of any chamber of commerce, any associations, whether it is Indian, whether it is Thai or whether it is Indian business associations or any of those. I didn't have time. I was just focused on my business, doing sales, and built business, scaling business and all that stuff, and taking care of the family, full focus on the family. I didn't network at all. And then we moved to India. Same thing. We established an SEZ in Vizag. There was an ITPI association. Didn't take part in anything. Because we were the largest employers there, I could have been the president of that association, whatever. I didn't bother, just focused on building the business, just focused on making the investments.
So it was not about not wanting to network, it was just because, you were so focused on doing your everyday. Okay.
So what I feel now and what I advise youngsters is, you should have a certain portion of your time strategically devoted to strategic networks.
Strategic networking.
Strategic networking, which I was zero. Okay. Now looking back, I could have grown the business much better. There are so many problems that we faced in scaling and when we exited IBM. All that would have been handled very well, or we would have been more successful had I been more strategic about it. So for the youngsters, even for my children now, whether it is males, females, across the board, for everyone, I feel that strategic networking, strategic taking part in associations is very important.
Very nice. I love that. Strategic. All right. Strategic.
So it's just like I'm friendly, so I would go around, I'll meet people, I'll meet bits and people, whatever, right? So everyone thinks Anita, but I didn't have any, like strategically, I didn't say I have to be in the association or I have to know this person.
It just happened.
It just happened. So if I was more focused, I would have been.
You could have made more out of those relationships.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. As an early stage investor, what is one quality or a few qualities that you look before you actually invest?
Yeah. So I'm a very emotional investor, and I have no shame in accepting that. And
you recommend that to others?
It's their own. Your journey is your journey. My journey is my journey.
Okay.
As I said, I don't want to be judgmental about anything. See, for me, until I emotionally connect with an idea, I cannot do that business and I cannot invest in that business. Okay. So now for me, everything should come with a social purpose. Okay. Why I like Shobhitam, what you're doing is the way you're supporting women in terms of weaves, or in terms of tailoring, in terms of everything
financial independence.
Financial independence, right? So I love what you're doing. So similarly, I have to love what the technology no longer excites me. Technology just for the sake of technology. Technology should be an enabler for doing your business, but it should not be the sole purpose of the whole thing for me right now.
Mm.
Okay, so my favorite investment right now is blue collar housing, Chicana.
lovely.
Okay, the reason for that is India has really progressed. People are making, there are so many more billionaires now. People are making money, but what about the bottom of the pyramid, right? The bottom of the pyramid still lack decent accommodation, still lack decent food, still lack all those things. So anybody who's investing, or anybody who's coming up with products or services to improve the life of the bottom of the pyramid, I'm in.
Lovely.
That's it.
And what are some initiatives that you've taken? I know there are quite
Yeah.
a few.
Yeah. So I've invested but lost out on a few fintech products that would increase the credit limit of, like for example, housemaids, drivers, and all that
Okay.
stuff. But that product itself didn't span out well. Again, grassroots or bottom of the pyramid kind of an investment. But as a CSR activity now, I have supported various other activities before. But now I started my own organization called Stree Adhikar, Sakuru
Stree
Foundation.
Adhikar.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started off with doing housing for women that are domestic, that are under domestic violence.
Okay.
So again, there also the idea is not just house them and keep them lazy forever. That's not the idea. The idea is to bring them, empower them, give them the power to fight the situation. As I told you, every time the situation is not as bad as you think it is. So give them the legal help, give them the support network, make them independent, give them skills if they don't have, and then make them independent.
So
that's what
let's talk a little bit more about Stree Adhikar. Where is this based? How many women have you actually impacted, and how do you
Yeah.
actually go about finding these women?
Yeah, so this is only a 1 year old organization now.
Hmm.
Before that, we've done a lot of work independently through another organization,
Okay.
in terms of giving financial resources for women, microfinancing
Hmm.
for women in the Visakhapatnam district area. But that every time we go to help women financially or into something else, this topic of women getting beaten up, no place to go, they'll either commit suicide or they stay back in those abusive relationships have always come up. So technically there are no government hostels for such women where they can go and stay even for a week before things settle down at home, before the counselors go and counsel them or whatever. So what happens is, after a woman is beaten, right? If she doesn't go out, she loses all the power.
Mm.
Even though all the law is for her, and the police may support her, if she has no place to go and no financial independence, there is no power with her. So that is the reason we said, okay, there is an intervention accommodation that we created in the Visakhapatnam district, where they come, they stay there, and there are volunteers to help them go find legal help. We have legal help in house, and go and first establish the family by educating the husband and the family, saying that abuse is not allowed, violence is not allowed, and they'll be punished, and put cases on them. Then try to re-establish the family. But for various reasons,
So I like that you're actually trying to re-establish.
yes,
the
yes,
family.
absolutely. Re-establish the family.
Mm.
We send the woman back. But if the violence is repeated and there is no correction, that's when we try and bring her back, and then give her more skills to be economically independent and go the separation route.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So that is the whole thing.
So
How do we find these women?
Huh.
They come to the police station,
Okay.
and these are all police referred cases. We don't take any independent cases because it's a very independent subject. It's a very sensitive subject. So only police referred cases we take. I was very surprised when the Visakhapatnam police commissioner, sir, he mentioned that at least every alternate day some or other women go. Abuse is not just abuse. There's a lot of other abuse. Aparna, you'll be shocked. Some of the men, right? They're living in a rental home along with the wife and children. One fine day the man vanishes because he has
we've heard a lot
Yeah.
of those stories through our women weavers and artisan community.
Oh my God, that's horrible. So that only after a week or 10 days, the wife realizes that the rent is not paid. There's a lot of things that are not paid. The husband is not to be traced. The phone number is not to be traced. He's basically abandoned and gone. So abandonment is another form of abuse. Okay, it's not just violence.
True.
This is another form of violence. So those cases also the commissioner gets a
upskill
lot.
those
Yeah.
women.
Yeah, so then we put out through the police, we put a search out for that person and try to find that person and bring that person back. But otherwise, what happens is the owner of the house asks them to vacate and they throw them out, right? Especially in smaller communities, there's no rental agreement, nothing, they just throw the things out and all. So we take police intervention and make them stay for a month. We take care of the expenses for a month, really put out a search, and then try and make make them independent, take the children and join them in a school, again re-establishing the whole family. So unless you take care of the society, women don't advance. You can have 1,000 billionaires in this country, but we don't advance if the
Very
people
true.
are not taken care.
Yeah, it has to be a collective effort.
Yeah.
So, how do women who actually, coming out of it, what is something that they feel? I'm very sure that they feel more empowered. But anything that has actually stood with you, where you feel like, okay, this is such positive influence that we've had on them, and it's such a positive story.
There are in Vishakhapatnam, because all this work we have done in Vishakhapatnam, there are many, many, many entrepreneurs that came out of domestic violence. What I'm saying is, they were domestic violence victims
Who turned to be?
who turned into
Oh
entrepreneurs.
wow,
There are
that's a
many
huge metamorphosis.
Yeah, there are many. That's what I said. We overestimate. See, people who are comfortable, right? Who have a job, who are going to get pension, who are comfortable in the security of their husband, children, and everything. They want to be entrepreneurs, and they overestimate the risk. Whereas people at the grassroots level, they lost out everything. They're victims of domestic violence. They're on the road. They start off with one idli stand, and then they've. I know a few women who built it up to restaurants. Started with idli stand, started with selling packages of some food, some or other food items, home to home delivery, and from then they became entrepreneurs. So there is no risk for them there, zero risk, because anyway they are on the road, right?
Yes.
They're like they can pick themselves up and then go. Yeah,
I'm sure the men who actually abandoned them are feeling like, oh my god, I had this gem of a person here,
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. You had a brief stint into politics, and
Yeah,
politics is again all about power.
yeah,
Uh, what is it to be a woman in politics?
yeah. So for example, I mentioned to you that my family was in politics. That was like during the independence time, and that's like 30 years before, 30, 40 years before I wanted to
Were
delve
there
into
any
politics.
women in politics
Yes,
before
yes.
you?
My aunt, my dad's sister
Okay.
contested on Congress party as a parliamentary for parliament, first parliament of India from Vijayawada.
Okay.
So we are, and she was a disciple of Rabindranath Tagore. So women in my home are empowered from 1900s. So there's early 1900s. So
Wow, okay.
empowerment is not an issue. So, but when I started off, it's like starting off from ground zero. So for any woman who wants to enter into politics from ground zero is the toughest thing that you can do. Entrepreneurship is really nothing. It's the toughest thing, because whichever party you have to align with, right? There are various factors that you don't know, you can't imagine, you can't put a strategy around it. Like I said, I lack a little bit on the strategy front. Like even in business, right? For me, it's all about emotion, it's about empowerment, it's about change, it's about sharing. All these things I talk to you about, but I never use the word I was very strategic here, strategic there. So I'm not very strategic in terms of building those bridges and all that stuff. So politics, you have to be very strategic, you have to be very lucky, and it is for people who are there long term. If you have
You
a weak
mentioned the
heart,
word lucky.
yeah. When I said lucky, it says you have to be there at the right time, right places. What is happening in South India now? I didn't study North Indian politics that closely. That's why I said South India. So every constituency, if there are three parties, there are three parties, people who already are sitting there like ducks on that constituency, not allowing their own party people to come in. Leave alone outside people, right? Independents or independent party or whatever. So it's to go in the middle of all those like very powerful people as a woman is very tough. So when I said luck, right? Suppose if one party loses out, or when all of a sudden there is a space in that constituency, if you're at their right time, right place, then you get the seat. So that's what I meant. And then whether we may be preaching saying that okay, there should not be any note for power and all that stuff, politics has become very expensive. Gone are the days when there are volunteers for each party. Today every party has to spend money to bring somebody for a meeting, or to bring, because if somebody is like stopping their work and coming for a meeting, they're losing livelihood for the day. So you take care of their expense. That's another way of looking at it. You take care of their expenses, you take care of their food and everything. So it's a very expensive proposition. So it's very hard for people like me who are like. So if I have to spend 1 crore as an example, right? I would be thinking, with 1 crore, how many women can I bring out from domestic violence? My calculation immediately goes like that. I can build another shelter home. and for the next 30 years there's so many women that are going to be empowered more, right? So this is how I, so now I'm out of politics, Aparna. So this is how I justified my exit from politics, right? So I thought if I become an MP, right, I could impact the lives of, let us say, 1 lakh people, 100,000 people, right? So I said, okay, I sat down and really did a soul search. I said, why do I really want to be in politics? Is it for power? Is it for attention? Is it for what? Then I truly answered it to my soul. It's about transformation, transforming lives of people, right? So 100,000 people is what I calculated. So then I said, okay, for the rest of my life, okay, for the rest of my life, if I can transform 100,000 people's lives, I'm all set. I don't have to be in politics for the power. So that is how I justified myself, and now I started an organization, Stree Adhikar. So whether it is pulling people out of domestic violence or whether it is financially empowering people, the next idea within that organization that I have is teaching people how to save and invest, micro saving and micro investments, so that people save for their own retirement, women especially, and not wait for their children to support them or not wait for the government schemes in their retirement thing. So we are coming up with an education module so that we take it to the grassroots level, even if it is saving 10 rupees per day or 100 rupees per day, right? And at some point, we'll have the government match that savings and come up with an independent program. So now I'm on a mission to transform 100,000 lives. That's my mission for the next 20 years.
Love it. So you just don't have vague goals, but you have clearly charted success metrics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lovely. So it's not just emotion, but whole bunch of calculation.
Yeah.
Very, very targeted.
Yeah.
So when you were actually in politics, did you think that there was a lot of resistance because you were a woman?
Women also, one, there is definitely resistance for women. There is more resistance for powerful women. Power, you said. There is more resistance for confident women, and there is more resistance for women with values. Okay, there are a lot of,
Because they all want women who are very moldable.
yes,
Women
absolutely.
just as a medium.
Yes, absolutely. And I have a lot of, there are, whether you win on a family category or whether you win on a caste category or whatever, winning and being in politics for any woman is very tough, because you have to satisfy your husband. If you got the seat through your husband or father, you are satisfy the family, satisfy the constituency, be open to all this bloody criticism. All, it's very tough. But a lot of women come there because of the family tag or caste tag or something like that, and they act as if they are very moldable. A lot of people act as if they are very moldable. I can't act. I'm not saying acting is wrong. I'm saying it's just that I didn't develop that skill. So if you're with high values, if you're extremely confident and you don't care for others, you don't care for others means I meant in a positive way. In the sense, you can't threaten me.
You just believe yourself so much.
You can't threaten me, kind of a thing. It's very tough in politics.
Lovely. So you are right there at the intersection of power, confidence, values. A very, very rare trait of all of these coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very tough, but you never know.
Anita, I also know you as a deeply spiritual person. What role has spirituality actually contributed in the person that you are today?
Yeah, it has contributed tremendously. I told you, right, women in my home are very empowered women. So my great grandmother was the spiritual, not orange robes or anything like that. She was a spiritual guru who knew, they call Dvibhasha Pravinalu, means somebody who knows 2 languages at the time.
Okay.
So like, Telugu and Sanskrit.
Okay.
So for those couple of districts, she was a spiritual person that everyone went to and seeked opinion and everything as to how to deal with certain things. And my grandmother and my mom, everyone is into spirituality. So I'm like, per se, I don't follow a particular thing, but I read a lot in terms of how do you handle yourself, and how do you, like, center yourself in the middle of all this. And when you're up, how do you behave? When you're down, how do you behave? And all that stuff. So my only theory of spirituality is that everything is completely pre-written. Okay, you're following somebody's remote. Somebody is remoting you and you're doing it. When it comes to results, that's how I think about it. When it comes to actions, I think about everything is in my hands. Let me give my best to it. Single-minded laser focus. And then once the work is done, I don't bother. I feel somebody is playing the remote, you'll get it. You'll get the result that you want.
So the first point that you mentioned, don't expect anything out of anybody.
Yeah.
Right? When you
Yeah.
give an advice.
Yeah.
So you actually follow it starting
Yeah,
from
I
yourself.
follow it. It's not even following. It's like within me. I don't think of it consciously. It just happens. It's like if Aparna is not talking to you, there is some reason somebody is calling her. It's not like she's not talking to
There's
me.
no judgment.
Yeah, that's all. It's very simple. So these three things I followed, and it keeps me very balanced and very happy.
What is the boldest thing that Anita has done, and you feel like, sometimes it's hard to believe that you actually did it, or you feel very inspired that it actually happened?
I haven't done anything like that till now. I feel I haven't. It's not in a negative way. I feel I haven't reached even 50% of my potential. I feel my life. I was a great admirer of Gandhiji when I was very young, and every day my father used to tell me Gandhiji stories, and he was God for me. So there is why I returned back from US also. A lot of times I used to think, why did I at the first opportunity? Why did we come back and all that? Right? All the people that I admired, Gandhiji, then in Telugu states, Tanguturu Prakasham Garu, the first CM of Andhra Pradesh. So he also was a London barrister and came back to India and all that, right? So the people that I admired came back to India, so I came back to India.
Oh.
And the people that the person that I admired the most, Gandhiji, did transformed India after 60, right? So I always think of it like that. It's like at the back of my mind, my God, Gandhiji his career has begun when he was 60. So my real career will begin when I'm 60. So I feel I can contribute to this world, to the society that I love, maybe after I'm 60. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I'm just joking. But that's
There's
the
a long road ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That's the perspective that I have. I look at life like really long. Every day, how can I do something good? So you can.
So let not age stop.
Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely.
You are a multifaceted personality. I love that you love saris. I
Yeah.
love the blouse that you're wearing, the pearls that you're wearing. What draws you to saris?
It's second skin, basically. So when we grew up, right? So in our community and the place that we grew, agro-based, right? So whenever you're like a little bit taller, and women, they're like more than 13, 14 years old, if you're taller, they'll give you saris to wear. And then my mother had a fantastic collection of saris. And then I started wearing saris when I was 14, 15. And then engineering college, Pilani, never heard, like I wore sari every single day.
Wow.
And then I used to ride bicycle with the sari and everything.
Lovely.
And then I rather than follow somebody's style, this artist is doing this or whatever, I love to create my own stuff. I love to put together. So my creative juices are also satisfied, and I feel happy doing that.
Beautiful. I like how you called it second skin, and this is your creative outlet.
Yeah, that's all. This and cooking. I love cooking. So I feel very meditative when I cook, and I feel very creative when I put together something.
Speaking of cooking, when you do your Navratri invites, you actually cook how many did you say?
108.
108 dishes?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And how long does it take to prepare that?
I start at 4:30.
And you do it all yourself?
Yes, I do all myself.
Cooking 108 dishes in one day all by yourself?
It's like I said, right? I'm very grateful for the life I have. And that is once a year to Goddess Annapurna. That's my way of saying gratitude that we have everything in this world. Let everyone have this. And that's how I celebrate.
You truly show that you're unstoppable.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the last question, which is our signature question, this is the Naarishakti show. What does Naarishakti mean to you, Anita?
Naarishakti is for me empowerment, satisfaction, gratitude, happiness.
Very simple.
Yeah, very simple. It's not like power, it's nothing. If a woman inside, she feels empowered, that is Shakti. I feel very empowered, I feel very strong. That's all. I feel I can do anything I want.
We don't need validation from
I don't need any validation. I don't need money. I don't need resources. I don't need anything. If I want to do something, I will slowly start and get there. Just one step at a time. That is empowerment for me.
It was absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Having you here, Anita. I feel so recharged. The points that you mentioned, the biggest takeaway for me was one, network.
Yeah.
Not all of us are born extroverts, but I think we have to make that extra effort because it will pay back in the long run.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you said, don't be judgmental, whether it's about you or anybody else. That way you lead a fuller life, right? Without caring about what others have to say. So I really hope that everyone watching today's show really loved it. And, there was something inspirational, a whole bunch of inspirational things to take away with. And we would love to hear what you have to say. So please do leave us your review or comments, and we'll be all ears. And we'll be back with another Nari with her story next week. Until then, it's me, Aparna, signing off. See you then.